Welcome, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us on our meeting today, going over this agency administrator training session. I do want to let you know that our team has developed this session based on the feedback that we've received from our partner agency administrators based on your general questions or comments about your role. I do want to let you know that this is the first webinar in a new series that we're launching that goes over HMIS agency administrator training and responsibilities. This session in particular will be primarily geared towards our newer agency administrators, going over agency administrator responsibilities as well as general data quality concerns. So for the agenda today, this meeting will be split up into two sections. Part one, HMIS agency administrator responsibilities. That will cover getting set up as an agency administrator, managing new users, best practices for submitting tickets. And the second part will be data quality. That will go over data quality importance, components of data quality report cards, data quality management, and demonstrations of reports. And then we'll have time for a Q&A session at the very end. As you all may be well aware from our general monthly user meetings, we will be utilizing the Q&A option to help streamline some general question and answer process that may occur while we are presenting this meeting. So if you do have any questions or concerns, please hit that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and one of our team members will be happy to assist in answering the questions. So let's get started with part one, HMIS agency administrator responsibilities. This first section will cover getting set up as an agency administrator. Agency administrators are the people responsible for overseeing and managing their agency's data in HMIS. To prepare for this role, agency administrators should check to ensure they have access to the following: that being an HMIS account, a training account, a HappyFox account, Dropbox access, access to the MailChimp mailing list, and access to the Looker mail. Agency administrators are responsible for maintaining an active HMIS account. With an HMIS account, agency administrators can easily monitor their agency's data, oversee their users, and run built-in reports. Without an active HMIS account, agency administrators would be severely limited in their ability to carry out their management duties. Agency administrators should log into HMIS at least once a month to review their agency's data, even if no major changes or updates have occurred, to ensure that their account remains active. Agency administrators are also responsible for maintaining an active agency training account for staff at their agency to use. Agency administrators must create a memorable training account password to share with their staff. Since training accounts are shared by all users within an agency, agency administrators should remind their staff not to modify the login credentials of their general training account. When an agency administrator joins or leaves an agency, the email address associated with the training account may need to be updated to reflect changes in the composition of agency administrators. HappyFox is the ticketing software the help desk uses to communicate with agency administrators. Although agency administrators can submit tickets via our ticketing portal, it is more convenient to create a HappyFox account to manage tickets. With a HappyFox account, agency administrators can easily submit, respond, and track support tickets. This increased coordination streamlines the process for the help desk to resolve tickets. And for more information on this topic, you can reference our Creating a HappyFox Help Desk Account knowledge base article. Dropbox is the file hosting service that the help desk uses to securely share documents with agency administrators. The help desk routinely uploads data quality corrections and other pertinent documents to Dropbox for agency administrators to review. Access to Dropbox is essential for agency administrators to carry out their data management tasks. For more information on this topic, please reference our Creating a Dropbox account and Accessing Your Agency's Dropbox Folder knowledge base articles. MailChimp is the email platform the help desk uses to send newsletters to users. These newsletters often contain important information regarding upcoming meetings, training sessions, and other community resources. Agency administrators should ensure that they are subscribed to the following mailing lists, those being the general HMIS newsletter, the agency administrator newsletter, the Data and Performance Management Meeting newsletter, as well as the Hick and Pit newsletter. However, I do want to pause and note that the Hick and Pit newsletter is only for agencies with eligible Hick and Pit projects. So not all agencies will be subscribed to that specific newsletter. The help desk utilizes Looker's built-in mailing functionality to send out CAN reports to agency administrators. Our team has a set list of CAN reports regarding data quality that are regularly sent out to agency administrators, and new CAN reports can be created upon request. Once more, I do want to pause and note that the CES leads and administrative teams operate their own set of mailing lists. Since these are operated by their respective CES leads, us here at the help desk cannot add users to those specific mailing lists. So if a team member of yours has a problem and needs to be on a CS mailing list, it would be best to contact the CS leads and admins directly. And I do want to give a quick recap of this first section, getting set up. To carry out their duties, agency administrators should have access to an active HMS account, an agency HMS training account, a help desk HappyFox account, access to 211 OC's shared Dropbox folder, emails from MailChimp, and emails from Looker. I do want to give a very brief pause to see if anyone has any very general or quick questions that they have about the getting set up section. No? Okay, great. Moving on. Next section, managing HMIS users. In addition to overseeing and managing agency data, agency administrators are responsible for managing all users at their agency. The primary day-to-day role of agency administrators revolves around 1. Identifying users who need access to HMIS, 2. Providing onboarding to new users, 3. Conducting additional training as needed, and 4. Notifying the HMIS help desk to create, update, or disable user accounts. Agency administrators are also responsible for relaying important HMIS-related news with their users. In HMIS, there are 3 general access roles, those being read-only, agency staff, otherwise known as data entry, and CES agency staff. Each access role has a specific set of training requirements that need to be completed in order to gain access to HMIS. For read-only accounts, this would be completing the HMIS Part 1 training course. For agency staff accounts, that would be completing the Part 1 course as well as the HMIS Part 2 training course. And finally, for CES agency staff, that would be both HMIS Part 1 and Part 2, as well as the Coordinated Entry System training course. Here we created this very colorful graphic for our more visual learners that kind of demonstrates the specific workflows that you agency administrators would be going through when you identify the trainings that users need in order to get access to HMIS. So let's say, for example, we go here at the start. Your first step would be to identify users who need access to HMIS. Once you've identified that user, you'll ask yourself a very simple question. Does this user need to enter data? If the answer to this question is no, then the user will simply complete the HMIS Part 1 training course, and then their training materials will end. However, if the answer to the question, does this user need to enter data, is yes, then that user will go ahead and complete both HMIS Part 1 and HMIS Part 2. At this point, if your agency is a CES access point, you will ask yourself an additional question. Does this user need to access CES? If the answer is no, then that is the end of their training materials and you can proceed with the final steps of creating their HMIS account. However, if the answer to the question, does this user need access to CES, is yes, then the user completes the Coordinated Entry System training course, and that will be the final course needed in order to gain access to HMIS. Speaking of CES, the Coordinated Entry System is an autonomous system within HMIS that is operated by the CES leads and administrative teams. Only agencies who are certified CES access points can request for their users to be granted CES agency staff access. Approval is granted at the discretion of the CES leads and administrative teams. Agency administrators who want their agency to become a CS access point can submit a ticket with the help desk for our team to connect them with the CS lead and administrative teams and begin that specific onboarding process. Clarity HMIS will automatically disable user accounts after a 60-day period of inactivity. To prevent this from occurring, users should set up a monthly calendar reminder to log into HMIS. Users with agency staff, CES agency staff, or agency administrator access will need to complete the HMIS reactivation training course to regain access to their accounts. Users with read-only access will need to retake the HMIS Part 1 training course. I do want to, however, pause and note that read-only users can only successfully retake the HMIS Part 1 training course after the HMIS help desk has been informed to reset this. The specific reason that we have to reset it first is because the learning management system that our team uses to track users' progression through our training courses does not automatically reset itself after course completion. So let's say, for example, a user completes HMIS Part 1, then 60 days later, their account becomes inactive and they retake that course by themselves. Our learning management platform will not record that second course attempt until our team manually resets that course. This is why we ask that you inform us before the user begins to take the HMIS Part 1 training course once more. Every year, a recertification process is conducted for all users except those with read-only access during the summer months. The recertification is meant to gauge whether users can successfully complete basic data entry tasks. All users whose HMIS accounts were created before January 1st of the current calendar year are required to complete this process. Users who fail to complete the recertification process by the end of the summer will have their HMIS accounts disabled. To reactivate their accounts, those users will need to complete the reactivation training course. Once more, I do want to pause and give a little bit more context to the recertification process. There is some misunderstanding among some agency administrators that the recertification process only applies to users with data entry and CS agency staff access. However, that is not the case. The recertification process also applies to you agency administrators. So please note, agency administrators, that if you do not complete the recertification process within the allotted time frame, then your accounts are also subject to be disabled until that course has been completed. And finally, to recap managing users, to successfully manage users, agency administrators should know how to, 1, onboard new users, 2, determine training requirements, 3, request CES access, 4, reactivate disabled user accounts, and 5, plan for the annual recertification. I do want to once more pause and see if anyone has any general quick questions or comments about this section. No, great. Moving on. Best practices for submitting tickets. Agency administrators are the points of contact between 211 OC and the rest of their agency. Whenever technical issues arise, agency administrators should submit tickets to the help desk for assistance. The help desk team strives to resolve most technical issues within 3 business days. However, more complex problems or tickets submitted without enough context may take more time to resolve. Agency administrators can submit tickets to their HappyFox accounts or through our ticketing portal. The help desk is split into 2 teams, the support team and the data team. The support team manages most tickets while the data team specializes in managing reports. To ensure that tickets are routed to the correct team member, agency administrators should select the most appropriate ticket category from the following list. Those being agency and project setup. You would most likely use this ticket category when you first need to set up your agency or when you need to set up new projects within HMIS. Client record merges. You would most likely use this category when you identify 2 client profiles that have been created for the same individual and need to be merged into one unified client profile. Client record request. You would use this category when a client that you are working with requests a copy of their HMIS record. Feedback. This category is more general and can be used for any specific feedback both users and agency administrators have in regards to either HMIS or any one of our training sessions or additional training materials. HMIS functionality issues. This is generally one of the more common ticket categories that you'll be utilizing. You would select this category if you encounter some sort of technical error within HMIS that impedes you in doing your work. Reports. This is a more specific category if you have questions about a specific report generated within HMIS. And finally, users and trainings. You utilize this category when you need to onboard new users or disable user accounts. When agency administrators submit tickets to the help desk, they should strive to include as much relevant information as possible. Tickets submitted in response to technical difficulties should include computer terminal, that is whether or not the user was accessing HMIS through either a desktop, a laptop, or mobile device, the operating system in use, such as Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, Android, or iOS, as well as the web browser, either Google Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. Tickets should also include information related to the users encountering the issue, location of the issue, and any troubleshooting methods already applied. And now we'll be going through some examples of ticket submissions. So here we have an example ticket submission titled Client Profiles, raised by user Happy Fox Testing, labeled Priority Medium, category HMS functionality issues, and the body of the text goes, hello, client UID ABC and client UID XYZ are the same. Please merge. Best agency administrator. I want everyone who's participating in this meeting to also participate in a fun interactive poll that we've created. So, as you can see, I will launch a poll and I will let you know what errors do you see in this specific screenshot. I'll give everyone who's participating in this meeting, let's say, minute and a half to review this screenshot and identify any issues that you see. Okay, it looks like the responses are starting to peter out. So I think we can go ahead and end the poll and showcase the results. Let me end the poll and share the results with everyone. Rachel and Diana, can you verify that everyone can see the results of the poll? If they're being properly shared?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, great. So very fun poll. We see a lot of people have said that the category is incorrect, that the body of the text is incorrect, and the subject in it is incorrect. Some people have also stated that the priority is incorrect, and a small percentage have also stated the attachment is incorrect. So let's go over what exactly is wrong with this ticket. Let's see here. First off, the subject is incorrect. Client profiles does not provide our team with enough relevant context as to what is wrong with this client profile. We don't know from this subject alone whether client profiles need to be merged, whether there is inaccurate data in a client profile, or if there's some other issue involved. Next is the category. when you need to merge client profiles, it is not necessarily the best idea to select the category as HMS functionality issues, as that lets us know that there is some sort of technical error within HMIS. However, that's not the case here. The more appropriate category would be client record merges. And finally, there's an issue with the body of the text. Here we see that although the agency administrator in question has identified two users that need to be merged together, they have not identified which user is the primary or which client profile is the primary profile and which client profiles are secondary profiles. The way merges work within HMIS is that one client profile is designated as the main client profile that all other subsequent duplicate profiles will be merged into. So because this agency administrator did not specify which is primary and which are secondary, it would take some back and forth between our team and this agency administrator to determine how exactly these profiles should be merged, which once more takes up both the help desk team time and your time, when it would be much easier if you would identify that issue at the very start. Great. Next, let's look at another example. Here we have an agency administrator who raised a ticket titled geolocation issue. Once more, this has been raised by user Happy Fox Testing, priority medium, and category HMS functionality issues. And the body of the text goes, hello, user John Doe is not able to add a geolocation to the housing notes service item in our COC permanent supportive housing project. He is the only user experiencing this problem. He has tried clearing his browser cache and restarting the device, but the issue still persists. Here are the device specifications. It's an iPad 11th generation running iPad OS 26 using the Safari web browser. And he's also gone ahead and attached an image of the error that appears whenever the user tries to add a geolocation. Unlike the previous ticket, this ticket gives a plethora of context regarding the issue encountered. It's very specific in the subject, geolocation issue. The agency administrator locates where this issue is occurring, specifically the housing notes service item in their COC permanent supportive housing project. And he also features technical device specifications as well as remedies his team has already tried to apply. Based on this context, our team would be able to easily determine if this is something we can internally resolve or if this would be an issue we would need to raise to our vendor to help support us in resolving this issue. Great. And that was the end of the context examples, so let's move on. Client identifying information. Agency administrators should never include personal protected information, PPI, otherwise known as personal identifying information, PII, in either the body of the ticket or an attachment. Personal protected information includes, but is not limited to, name, social security number, and date of birth. When referencing a client, agency administrators must utilize the client unique identifier. For more information on this topic, please reference our sending client identifying information to the help desk knowledge-based article. And now let's move on to some client identifying information examples. Here we have a ticket titled Housing Move-in Date Error raised by user Happy Fox Testing, priority medium, and category HMS functionality issues. And the body of the text goes, hello, our agency is partnering with 211 OC on the COC permanent supportive housing project. Our team is reporting on the services component and 211 OC is reporting on the housing component. For reviewing our data, we noticed that one of our clients, Alejandro UID XYZ, has a housing move-in date prior to project start. How should we correct this error? And I've included a screen grab of the error in HMIS. Best agency administrator. I want to stop and launch a new poll and ask everyone here what they think is wrong with this ticket. Once more, let's give it about a minute and a half for everyone to participate. Okay, once more, it does look like the responses are starting to peter out. So I will go ahead and end the poll and I will share the result with everyone. Diana and Rachel, can either one of you confirm that the results are being shared?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. So some very good responses here. In regards to the first question, where could personal identifying information be located in the screenshot? We see the majority of respondents selected that the PPI was in the body of the text. However, there were some percentages that also stated that it can either be in the category or in the attachment. And in regards to the second question, what type of personal identifying information is included in the screenshot? An overwhelming majority of you stated that it was the name, with a smaller percentage identifying date of birth. Now, let's see where this agency administrator went wrong. First and foremost, this agency administrator included the client's name within the ticket. I do want to pause and take note that we do not consider emails a secure form of communication. Therefore, client names, dates of birth, social security numbers should never be shared through emails. I know it can be fairly inconsequential to think that including a name such as this might not be such a huge concern, but please note that it is a grave concern to our team as it violates the integrity of the client's protected information. We often see sometimes that while agency administrators are correct in including the client unique identifier, oftentimes they might inadvertently also include other additional details such as the client's name, which once more is not in line with our recommended policies regarding client's personal identifying information. In addition, the few people who selected attachment are correct, although it's not necessarily obvious in this ticket itself. Whenever our team does receive tickets along this nature, where we see that personal identifying information has been exposed within the body of the text, it is also often the case that personal identifying information has also inadvertently been exposed within any included attachments. So we go next. Here is the attachment that the agency administrator provided us. I do want to pause and launch a secondary poll and let everyone know where exactly did this agency administrator go wrong in this attachment. Once more, we'll give it about a minute and a half for everyone to participate. Okay, I do see the results starting to peter out. So I will go ahead and end this poll and share the results. Once more, Diana or Rachel, can you confirm that you can see the results?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So yes, for the first question, what type of personal identifying information is included in the screenshot? The overwhelming majority of you selected the correct answer, which is name. You can see client names are everywhere. And as we all know, names are considered personal protected information or client identifying information. In regards to the second question, how many clients identifying information was revealed? The correct response is 2, both the primary client who has this issue, as well as the program group member, Rodolfo. Typically, if you do want to include an attachment to a ticket, We recommend that you very carefully analyze that specific attachment to ensure that no client identifying information is included. If you would like to submit an attachment such as this, the best course of action would be to modify this attachment in some sort of program editing software to either black out or blur client identifying information such as names, dates of birth, social security numbers, etc., etc. Or if you would like to be more cautious, the more appropriate way you can attach information to tickets would be to actually upload these documents to your agency's Dropbox folder, and in the body of the ticket itself, inform our team that we can find additional attachments for review in your Dropbox folder rather than in the email itself. Great. And then next. Here we've seen another instance titled non-duplicate client records raised by user Happy Fox testing, priority medium, and category is client record merges. And the ticket goes, hello. Recently, our team received a spreadsheet in our Dropbox folder about potential duplicate client records. After reviewing the document, I've identified a couple of client records that aren't duplicates but are listed as such. I've attached a copy of the updated spreadsheet below for your review. Please advise on next steps. Signed, Agency Administrator. Once more, I want to launch a very quick poll and ask everyone, where could personal identifying information be included in this ticket? Okay, I see the results. The responses are trying to peter out once more. So I will go ahead and end the poll and share the results with everyone. Once more, Diana and Rachel, can you see the results?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the correct response is in the attachment. While there is nothing in the body of the text itself that can be considered personal protected information or client identifying information, it does paint a picture that with the context included, that there might be client identifying information within the attachment itself. Although our team doesn't often receive client identifying information in the body of the tickets, we do unfortunately receive it quite often in attachments. So even if the body of the ticket itself does not contain personal protected information, our team is always still very cautious when we receive attachments, and we really try to scrutinize them for further review to ensure that no personal protected information has been included. And here we can see the attachment that the agency administrator provided. As you can see, the agency administrator has identified specific duplicate clients that they do not believe are duplicate clients, as the system has incorrectly identified them as. And I do want to stop and ask everyone, what is wrong with this attachment? I will give everyone another minute and a half or so to respond. Okay, I do see the results starting to peter out once more. So I will go ahead and end this poll and share the result with everyone. So we can see that the overwhelming majority of users selected both name and date of birth as potential personal protected information, as well as social security number, and a similar percentage selected gender as well as race and ethnicity. Now let's see what's wrong with this ticket, and that is everything. Um, this ticket does include a whole host of name information, which we all know is considered personal protected information, partial social security number information, which once more is considered personal protected information, as well as dates of birth, which is also considered personal protected information. Although gender and and ethnicity aren't necessarily considered personal protected information, in some contexts they might be. We do want agency administrators to be cognizant of the fact that can clarity reports often include a whole host of personal identifying information. So if you have a specific concern regarding a report, the best course of action would be to upload that specific report and any sorts of notes that you have regarding that report into your agency's Dropbox folder instead of uploading it as an attachment to a specific ticket because of the whole host of personal protected information that might be included. Great. And I believe that's the end for personal protected information. So let's move on. And finally, I wanted to go over some common project forms, those being the project setup form, the project activation form, bed inventory form, and funding form. In regards to the project setup form, you can utilize this form to set up a brand new project in HMIS, and to ensure a quick setup project, be sure to provide as much information as possible regarding funding and project type. In regards to the project activation form, you would utilize this when a project is no longer in operation, and to facilitate a quick deactivation process, ensure that all clients are already exited out of the project by running a program roster report. The bed inventory form can be utilized to add or remove bed inventory from a housing project, and the bed and the household bed inventory types are households with adults and children, households with only adults, and households with only children. And finally, the funding form can be used to add, modify, or remove a project's associated funding. And if funding needs to be added or modified, you will include the new funding source, grant identifiers, and funding start and end dates. And these are some of the more common project forms that as agency administrators, you'll be utilizing on a somewhat regular basis. And to quickly recap, to communicate technical issues or request assistance from the help desk, agency administrators should be able to identify ticket categories, provide appropriate context, refrain from including client personal protected information or personal identifying information, and utilize common project forms. And finally, to cap off the part one section, I do want to do a quick demonstration of navigating the OCHMIS website. So if you would give me just 1 second to get that set up. Diana and Rachel, can either of you confirm that you can see my screen right now? I should be on the OCHMIS website.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I know this is a long meeting, so I won't be going super in depth into the OCHMIS website. However, I do want to highlight a few key important resources that would be great for all agency administrators to be made aware of. On our website, ochmis.org, under the helpful links section, I want to bring your attention to two specific items, those being the OCHMIS calendar and the HMIS knowledge base. If we go to the calendar, here we have our online calendar where we input all of our upcoming meeting and training information. If for whatever reason you have some issue receiving our mailing lists, you can identify new and upcoming user meetings, training sessions, etc., etc., using our online OCHMIS calendar. This is an interactive calendar, so if you click on a topic, such as our upcoming OCHMIS general webinar on Wednesday, May 6th, you can see the time frame as well as the meeting information where you can easily log in using just a click of a button. Same goes for other types of meeting or training resources, such as our upcoming data and performance management meeting on Thursday, May 14th, once more from 1 to 2 p.m. And the meeting information is once more also provided here. If we go over to our HMIS knowledge base site, you can see our OC HMIS knowledge base. This is in general what we refer to as our own little personalized Wikipedia site that includes articles based on some of the more common functionality and data quality related questions that we receive on a regular basis. If you do have any quicker general questions or comments about some specific functionality issue or data quality related to HMIS, oftentimes you can find that information here on our knowledge base website. Our knowledge base website is also a useful tool because it contains two additional buttons, both this login button here, which you can use to log into your HappyBox account to easily manage tickets, and our submit a ticket button up here, where you can submit a ticket using our general ticketing portal. In addition, as we briefly gone over forms, I want you to know where you can find those forms. Here on our website, under the HMIS Forms Documents tab, you can see we have HMIS data and setup forms. Specifically for agency administrators, these are split into two general categories: for agencies and projects currently set up in HMIS, and for agencies and projects not currently set up in HMIS. The latter of these two forms, or the latter of these two sections, is the one that you will utilize when you need to set up a brand new project in HMIS, and the former of these two sections is what you would use when you either want to deactivate a project, add bed inventory, add funding, add services, etc., etc. And I believe that is all from me in regards to Part 1, the agency administrator training and responsibilities. So I will go ahead and pass it over to Rachel now.
Thank you, Hugo. Give me just a second. Hugo, can you confirm if you see my slide, it says Part 2, Agency Admins and Data Quality?
Yes, I can see your slide, Rachel.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So for the second part of this training, we're going to be reviewing data quality, which includes the impact of data quality, the 4 components of data quality, and how agency admins are expected to support quality of data at their agency. Each piece of data that we enter into HMIS represents a real human being, whether it's someone waiting for a safe place to sleep and a warm meal, a family of 5 about to move into an apartment, or a teen who would rather sleep with strangers at a shelter than sleep one more night in an unsafe house. Our data also captures the summarized stories to potential funders who may not have the time to read the narrative section on an agency's website. When our data is delayed or incomplete, there's an impact. The delayed exit for a shelter bed may mean that one person doesn't have a safe place to sleep. Those missed annual assessments can mean that the increase in income section on the report is significantly lower than in reality. High quality data doesn't mean perfection. It means showing that we care through small, intentional, and impactful shifts in how we see its value. Component 1, which is data entry timeliness. It is the time between event occurrence and when it's recorded in HMIS. The OC-HMIS community gives users 3 calendar days to enter in data from the time that the event occurred. For example, if an intake for an enrollment occurred on Friday, 5/1, the information would need to be entered no later than 5/4. Late data entry can result in missed or delayed shelter placements due to incorrect bed inventory. Clients who are on the cusp of age change will fall outside of that program eligibility. So for programs like RIE or senior specific programs. Component 2, data completeness. That is the degree to which all required data is recorded into HMIS. These are mostly focused on UDEs, or Universal Data Elements, and PSDEs, Program-Specific Data Elements. Incomplete data can result in veteran clients missing veteran-designated housing opportunities, incomplete report to funders. For example, a case manager forgot to update income for a client at program exit. Component 3, accuracy, which is the degree to which data entered in HMIS represents the real information about the client served. Inaccurate data can result in inaccurate length of homelessness recorded. Length of homelessness impacts priority on the community queue. Clients may miss a housing opportunity because a contact number was entered incorrectly. And finally, component 4, which is consistency. And that is the degree to which data is collected and entered uniformly by all staff that participate in HMIS. Inconsistent data can result in delayed services for clients. For example, one agency enters in a housing move-in date when a client has signed an agency-specific rental assistance agreement. Another agency follows HUD guidance, which states that this is the date when the client physically sleeps in the unit. If the client is requesting utility assistance services from another agency, they may be denied services since they do not see that housing move-in date in HMIS. Since agency admins are responsible for their agency's data, it's important to know how to monitor that data. Our team publishes the data quality report cards quarterly, and that covers the following components: data timeliness, data completeness, and data accuracy. Data consistency cannot be measured using an HMIS report. If any corrections are needed, these will be sent to your agency's Dropbox folder. Please keep an eye out for these and have staff make corrections as soon as possible. Before we jump into report demos, I wanted to cover a brief summary of what the reports identify and how an agency administrator would use that information to improve their data quality. The data accuracy dashboard helps identify things like date of birth after project start, situations where yes was selected for a disability, but no specified disability was selected. And then on the other side of that, where a specified disability was provided, but no was selected for disability. Once those issues are identified, the AA can ask their staff to update the birth date or the project start date and to correct the disability data, as both cannot be true. And then we have the household and enrollment data. Oops, I'm sorry. We have the household and enrollment data report. And this identifies things like households with no head of household assigned, situations where the head of household is a very young child, housing move-in dates outside of the enrollment, and identifying these issues can aid the agency administrator in ensuring that staff update the correct head of household and that either housing move-in dates are corrected or enrollment dates are adjusted, since housing move-in dates can only occur during the enrollment. And then lastly, the overlapping enrollments report identifies overlaps for projects like emergency shelter programs and rapid rehousing programs. This will help the agency administrators provide information to staff about what dates may need to be adjusted for these enrollments, since overlaps in certain projects like emergency shelter are not possible. Give me just a moment. I'm gonna switch over for a second here to start the demo. Hugo, can you confirm that you see the Clarity training site?
Yes, I can see the training site, Rachel.
All right, great, thank you. All right, so as with all of our demonstrations, we will be using the OC training site here. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the Rubik's Cube or the waffle. I'm going to go to reports. I'm going to go to data analysis. I'm going to go to Orange County Training System reports. I'm going to expand that. I'm going to go down. And under data quality, I'm going to look at data accuracy dashboard. I'm going to click run. Okay, and then here you can see your reporting parameters. The reporting filter is automatically set to the entire last calendar month. I'm going to leave these as is, and we can see some different flags that came up. We have date of birth after project start. We have disabled clients without a disability type specified, and then we have clients without disability that reported a specified disability. And if you click on the report, we can get some information here. I'm going to go to this enrollment. Oops, I'm sorry. Let me go back just a moment here. I'm going to there. On. Okay.
Oh, could I share some notes?
Sure.
Oh, yes. Just before Rachel gets started with sharing more notes, just wanted to note that our reports are interactive. So as Rachel demonstrated, you can click on the IDs. It helps you navigate directly to those enrollments and clients. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at this client. I can see here that the project start date was 10/1/23. And then if I go to the client's profile, I can see that the client's date of birth is 10/30/2023, and this is a child who is age 2. And in this situation, that makes sense. So we're going to leave that as is. We would want to be mindful of any situation where there's an adult who has a birthday after the project start, which of course wouldn't make sense, and so we would have to update that information. So I'm going to close out of that. Here, I'm going to go back to data analysis. And then here, I'm going to go to built-in reports. And I'm going to look for household and enrollment data. I'm going to click run. Okay, and then here we can see different sections. We have program enrollment household with no head of household. We have head of households less than 6 years old. And then we have clients with a missing date of birth. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and look for an individual, a head of household that's less than 6 years old. And we know that's not correct. And so I'm going to go ahead, do that here. And I have a client ID that I'm going to use. And unfortunately, this is one of the reports that are not interactive in the training site. It is in the live site, but not in the training site. So I have that information. I'm gonna go here. And here is my client. And I can see here that the child is listed as 6. And I can also see if we go to manage household, I can see based on the star here that Mara is listed as the head of household. And let's say that we know that that's not true. And we know that the father is the head of household. And so we would make a change here. We could do that under Mara. And then we can go to head of household and we can select this individual and hit save. And now that has changed from the 6-year-old to the father. So if we ran this report, then that information would not show anymore. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to data analysis.
Rachel, if I could share a note before we move forward from that client.
Sure,
Could you go back to that profile?
sure.
Yes. So thank you, Rachel, for sharing how to adjust the head of household. That's really important to identify the head of household. This is within the global enrollment. And a next step that we also need agency admins to complete is also going under programs for the enrollment and just making sure the head of household is reassigned there as well.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. Let's see here.
To the right-hand side of the green box at the top where you see head of household right under assigned staff. As Rachel demonstrated, there is a lot of different screens and fields, so we need to make sure that all these steps are taken to ensure the appropriate corrections are processed.
Thank you. Okay, and then going back to data analysis. We're going to go to built-in reports again, and then we're going to look at overlapping enrollments. Okay, I'm going to make some adjustments here. And then I'm going to remove some of these projects. I'm really wanting to only look at emergency shelter. And so I'm going to remove that. I'm going to go here to update. Okay. And here in this section, we can see that Wonder Woman, one of the programs, ESG emergency shelter and non-federally funded emergency shelter projects, there's an overlap there, and that's because there is no exit date here. And both of those enrollments are open. And so we're going to take a look and see how we can correct that. I'm going to go to Wonder Woman. Okay, and then here in Wonder Woman's profile, I can see that there is the 2 open enrollments. And let's say that I know from staff that this individual was supposed to be exited on, let's say the 21st. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to exit. I'm going to include the other household member as well. I'm going to go ahead and put in the state, excuse me. Okay, and then we'll say that there was no exit interview completed. We'll go down and hit save and next. And then the child, let's say we know that they went and stayed with family permanently. We'll adjust that date as well. Save, close. And then we're going to go ahead and go back to programs. And here we can see that there is only one active emergency shelter project, which is what we want. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. Okay, and that's it for me. I'm going to take a pause here and see if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Hugo and Rachel. Anyone, if you have any questions, feel free to add it into our Q&A box, or if you would like, you can feel free to unmute yourself. I've also added a survey into the chat. If you can give us your feedback on this training, it will help us with future trainings. So your input will help us develop future agency admin training series. So if you have any questions about any future data quality reports, we can develop and cover those reports. Again, thank you everyone for attending today. This training, we wanted to focus on supporting some of our new AAs that came online to give them an overview of their responsibilities and some of our recommended data quality reports, as they do highlight some common errors we see in our OC HMS community.